Welcome back to Red Alert. I'm your host, Joe, and that's Cindy.
I love how he introduces me. That's Cindy. And I say, this is Joe. This is Joe Chap. I'm Cindy Berry. We're your hosts on Red Alert.
Obviously, I introduced you because you want to bring this
I had to give him a hard time.
okey doke conversation up about old versus young.
I think it's important because a lot of people are focused on a lot of the young talent that's coming into Detroit, and there's no doubt that there is. But let's look at what the acquisitions were in the offseason. These are not any spring chickens they're bringing in. They're bringing in veteran guys who are actually even on, someone say the sunsets of their careers. And where's the value there? If the value was just in young talent, well, then why isn't Steve bringing on all young talent? You need a balance. The question is, who is going to bring more value? Is there more value in the veteran presence, or is there more value in our young talent coming up when it comes to this season with the Detroit Red Wings making it into the postseason?
Well,
that was my question. I thought it was a good question.
I think there's, without a doubt, it's the younger players.
How did I know you were going to say that?
Because they are the future.
Because you say that because you are, in fact, young.
Because older people like yourself, AARP people like yourself, people who are near death like yourself.
Near death? I don't think I'd take it that far.
Now,
you might be closer to death the more you make comments about my age because I might have to hurt you.
True. But listen, younger players are the key to the future. Obviously, they're not going to be a Stanley Cup champion next year. Obviously, they're not going to compete for a Stanley Cup next year. It's all about the young players. Now, what the older players do present for the Red Wings next year is two things.
Two things and two things only.
Just two things. One, it's a veteran presence. You need veterans. We've had Darren on the show before. Darren has said veterans really help, young guys. That's why they brought in guys like David Braun, like Andrew Kopp. Those are real guys who are, veterans of the game. Chirot, Holy Mott is kind of a younger guy, but you look at those guys, look at the guy they brought in that got hurt, unfortunately, Mark Pysyk. He was an alternate captain with the Buffalo Sabres. He's a guy that you can rely on because he's been in that leadership role with an organization that's kind of on their way up. With Buffalo is not really on their way up, but
do you think maybe Steve was looking for Pysyk and the defenseman to be kind of the leader of the defenseman?
I think that was an added, kind of bonus to it.
Okay.
Because I think what he really wanted was a guy who could play defense, and Mark Pysyk can play on the forward group too, if need be. Those guys who can play forward and defense, those are very, very luxury items that you really want to have because, we had Luke Witkowski here. He was a little bit challenged on the offensive end, but he could play forward. Mark Pysyk's a guy that he can play forward and he can score.
So it's going to be very important that we see him get healthy because I do think he's going to change the dynamic among the D-core. I really do. The other one that I'm excited, I think there's two in my position, by the way, not surprising because, I'm smarter than you, is that the veterans are actually going to bring more value in terms of getting this team deeper into the postseason. I think that the additions of Andrew Kopp and David Braun are absolutely critical to that forward group. I think that those are the guys who are going to bring the experience because I can tell you there is just no substitute for experience. You can practice, you can study, you can do well in other leagues and so on and so forth in other environments, but until you actually gain that experience and getting to the playoffs, it doesn't matter how much talent you have because if you don't know what to do with it, it's like having a Corvette in the garage and not knowing how to drive it, right? Or a Ferrari or something like that.
The reason I say the young guys,
that's why I think
the reason I say the young guys is one reason only. We talked about Lucas Raymond. We talked about Mo Seider. We know what they can be. We know the guys that they can play at a high level. What we're talking about is guys like Phil Zadina, guys like Phil Perron. If they take the next step, in their progression. They get better. That's great for the organization as a whole because you can really help yourself. And then you add in the development of a guy like Simon Edmondson who could come in and he can play at a high level at a young age. He could be a guy that's on the same blue line as Seider. Maybe they might split them up or maybe they put them together, but that's guys that you can lean on for the next 10, 12 years.
Well, there's no doubt that they're part of a foundation that's being built and something that's going to be a future focus. But I'm talking for right now, this season, I think that those veterans are going to bring more value because they're going to bring experience. again, especially once you get into the second half of the season, once you start getting into the playoffs, they have playoff experience. Also, they're going to share that experience with the younger players, as you have pointed out, which is going to help develop their skills, which is going to help them, manage that learning curve a little bit better until they gain the experience themselves. So that's why, as far as a value add, I see more value added in the veteran players that have been brought on than necessarily the new young guys coming up, as exciting as they may
We
be.
could split the difference. We could say that they add value in the experience level, they add value into the way that they play. We could also split the difference and say that the young players are the key to the future. So if you had guys like Zadina, Harana, Kubelik, Simon Evans, you think the next step that's really important for the franchise as a whole.
Well, certainly, I think that you can see that also the young players that they're putting together that are in the system right now, that I think they're going to play well together. They're going to grow up together. And one of the things that Darren taught me was, and we're going to be celebrating the 1997 Stanley Cup here in a couple of months down here at LCA. And one of the things Darren shared with me is, as he was coming up, they were growing up together. And so they were learning to play together, and it became a seamless operation by the time 97, 98 rolled around. You brought in, they brought in the addition of Brennan Shanahan kind of later, but yet he fit the mold. He fit the profile of what they needed and their style of play. But
that's right.
A good number of them were already playing together.
What you just said about Darren, what you said about them bringing them gelling together, that's what I'm looking for with, Zadina, Harana, Kubelik, Raymond, Larkin, Bertuzzi. These are guys that are going to take you into the future, and these are a guy like Dylan Larkin. He's still a younger guy.
Yeah.
If he progresses at a high enough level, we've seen him get better on the defensive end. We've seen him get better on the offensive end. We have seen him get better in every facet of the game. That's what I'm excited about, because I think that if you look in the front offices right now, I bet you right now they're very, very happy with their young players that are coming into the fold, not only in the NHL, but guys like Marco Kasper, who's going to be playing in Sweden, a guy like a Shai Boom, who is playing in Denver for Denver University. These are guys that you really, really have to love going forward, because they are really going to be the key to when you are contending for Stanley Cups at a high pace and you're playing at a high level. Yeah, the veterans made sense at this point in time, but when you look at it, those guys that are young are going to be veterans one day.
Right, and I think this season, what the young players bring, here's where I see the value in them, although as I've argued, I think the veterans bring more value. However, the value I see in the young players is they bring energy this year, they bring new perspective, they bring, just raw talent. These guys are so talented. This group of young guys is so talented. So you've got the talent, you've got the energy, you've got the excitement. Those are all important elements to making this team better and pushing them further, again, deeper into the possibility for a postseason run. And then now they're going to gain experience. Hopefully this will get them there to have that postseason experience, so that in the future, when they go for that Stanley Cup and they find themselves in the third round, they'll have already had experience in the first rounds of the playoffs. Because I do believe this team is going to make the playoffs this year.
It would be a tall task to make the playoffs. I'm pretty sure all those people in the front offices would be ecstatic to make the playoffs. A guy like Chris Strickler, a guy like Steve Yzerman, because that's development for the young guys.
And ticket prices go up.
I'll pay the price difference.
That's right.
I think
it's worth the price. That's the whole point. This team, Joe, this year is worth the price of admission.
But I think you could say that about LCA as a whole, because if you look at the Pistons, they're coming in with some young guys, some flash and dash. They're going to get better as we go along. The Red Wings are going to get better as we go along. This place is going to start filling up. And obviously, we're here on the concourse. We couldn't do this during a game day this year with the Red Wings and the Pistons, because I think that they're actually going to have a lot more fans than they've had when they were rebuilding. Obviously, This is the city of Detroit. They want to spend your hard-earned money on a team that's not really in contention.
So we know, obviously, people saved money all year by not wasting their money on Tiger games because they weren't even watchable. So now you can come and watch the Red Wings here at LCA, which, by the way, I want to take an opportunity to thank everyone here at LCA for allowing us to be here, all the great help we've had since we've been here, just with all the setup. And that really goes to show that this family, this organization is committed to Detroit.
It's a first-class organization.
They're first class, and they are our hometown team, and they support the hometown team, which is here Between the Whistles Detroit.
So what you can say about the Red Wings organization as a whole, is they're a first-class organization. People love to come here. People want to come here because of the history and what they're building. But also, they have the general manager who actually makes things happen. They have ownership who is committed to winning.
Well, they got their priorities in order.
They,
You know?
when you talk about ownership, you talk about teams. Starts at the top. You have guys like Chris Illich, and you guys have like Stevie Y. Those are huge. We talked all year, all throughout life about the Detroit Lions at Ford Field. One of the things people they get pissed about is the Ford family. But you see with Sheila Hamp, she's kind of changing things. So it all starts at the top, and this is a first class organization. You can obviously see it as they move along into the phase where they're going to be contending for championships, and it's going to be fun to watch.
And that's that culture that Darren talks about that's so very important and that we've talked about on the show is building that culture. They are a first-class organization. They're going to be top to bottom that way, and you are going to see a championship team coming out of Detroit, right out of LCA here, and not too far from the future.
We've talked about it before, but there's one thing that remains different about the Detroit Red Wings. It's like when you wear a Red Wings jersey, it's very, very, it's a luxury, it's an honor. You know what I'm saying? When you're gracing the same presence as a guy in the rafters like Gordie Howe, Steve Eisman, Nicholas Lidstrom, those are guys that you obviously came before you, and you got to live up to the expectation that they set.
Right.
And that's the way that it goes. You look at all the organizations in pro sports. The best organizations start at the top, they work their way down, and they're usually traditionally rich franchise, like the Yankees, like the Dodgers, like the Red Wings, like the Patriots, like the Cowboys.
Well, it's something. You can go anywhere. You travel all over the country, and you find Red Wings fans. They're everywhere. Whether they were born here and moved, or whether when they moved here, they become Red Wings fans.
Even if they weren't even here, just watching the Red Wings as getting into hockey. You have fans all across the world. I mean, we have the Red Wings.
A ton in Canada.
We have Detroit Red Wings.
For sure.
We have Detroit Red Wings News, and I think we've reached 40 different countries in that small part of time.
Yeah, which is great. And by the way, for those of you who haven't visited our Facebook page, Detroit Red Wings News, powered by IQ, which is Ice Queen, you want to visit that. Tremendous content. And the Between the Whistles family is growing. We've got the Detroit Lions News, Detroit Red Wings News, powered by Ice Queen.
And Between the Whistles Detroit, and we will keep you entertained throughout the year with everything that's going on.
Everything you need for sports. U of M, Michigan State, all the four major sports here in Detroit. You just can't find that anywhere, and we do it almost better than anybody because, we're reaching about how many, Joe? How many we reached last month?
21.7 million.
21.7 million people. Thank you, all of you, 21.7 million.
So in the next segment, what are we going to be talking about?
We're going to be talking about whatever you want to talk about in the next segment.
Sounds good. You'll see that in the next segment, or if you're listening on the podcast, you'll hear that in the next segment. We'll go along with that.
We'll see you then.